All right, let's dive right in. Today's explainer is going to unpack an absolutely epic ancient Indian text from the Silapitakaram. We're looking at one of the true masterpieces of Tamil literature, specifically focusing on this incredible chapter that explores a massive transition, how passionate, fiery romantic love evolves into a noble, outward-facing domestic life. It's a brilliant exploration of ancient ethics. We're going to follow the story of Kovalan and Kanalki, and as you'll see, we'll discover exactly how their intense private bliss actually sets the foundation for their ultimate societal purpose. It's going to be a fascinating ride. Now, right off the bat, the text sets up a core idea for us. True fulfillment is only achieved when intense romantic passion unites with righteous duty. And to anchor this, we have this perfect quote from the great sage Thiruvallur. If love and virtue are present, that is the essence and fruit of domestic life. This is literally the lens through which we have to view our couple. Ancient scholars firmly believe that, a household without love, it's barren. But a household without virtue or duty, that's completely meaningless. These two forces absolutely must intertwine. Love acts as the vital energy, while virtue provides the noble direction. So let's start our chronological journey right at the dawn of passion, rejoining the newlyweds, Kovalan and Kanagi, right in the middle of their intoxicating honeymoon phase. And they are isolated, high above the world on a 7th-floor moonlit terrace. The source text vividly describes this multi-tiered mansion, which was pretty typical of wealthy merchant families back then. But what's cool is they bypassed all the lower floors just to seek complete isolation. Up there, totally disconnected from the bustling society below, they exist entirely for one another. They essentially built a private universe where their young love could just freely bloom. And the sensory atmosphere the text builds here is just incredible. Picture this, a cool southern breeze carrying these rich, assorted floral scents straight across a brilliantly moonlit bed. The poetry is so immersive. I mean, in the warm climate of ancient South India, a cool breeze like that is an absolute luxury, right? The harsh sun is replaced by this soft, brilliant moonlight, and the bed is literally strewn with fresh blossoms. Every single environmental detail here is meticulously crafted to heighten their physical and emotional connection. Then we get this incredibly intimate detail. Kovalan is just completely enraptured by her beauty, right? So he paints these delicate sugarcane and vine motifs onto Kanagi's shoulders and chest using a red paste. This was actually a really captivating cultural practice. The red paste, which ancient texts describe as a special botanical extract, creates this striking, beautiful contrast against her skin. And the shapes aren't random. Sugarcane and climbing vines are classic ancient motifs meant to spark passion. They represent growth, sweetness, and, crucially, deep, deep entanglement. Which brings us to this brilliant visual metaphor of their physical union. He's wearing a deep red Sencom Jr. garland, representing his vibrant masculine energy, while she is wearing pure white jasmine. And as they hold each other, these two totally distinct garlands actually crush together and weave into one inseparable piece. The poet uses this literal floral entanglement to make a really bold statement. Their two separate identities have basically merged into one single soul. Moving into the next phase of our text, Section 1, the poetry of devotion. Now, ancient poetry loved to map human anatomy to cosmic weaponry, and Kovalan takes this to the next level. He looks at his bride and marvels at how even the god's tools were repurposed to form her beauty. He looks at her radiant forehead and claims the great god Shiva surrendered his own crescent moon just to form it. Her arched eyebrows? Those are the mighty sugarcane bows of Cupid. Her slender, strong waist is Indra's thunderbolt, and her sharp, captivating eyes are the divine spears of Murugan, striking his heart. He's basically declaring that the gods themselves donated their most powerful weapons to construct her flawless form. Talk about setting a high bar for compliments. And it gets even more dramatic, and honestly, kind of humorous. We see this classic poetic trope where nature itself literally admits defeat to her supreme grace. Our enthusiastic host, Kavalan, claims that peacocks, the ultimate symbol of beauty, took one look at her grace and ran away to hide in the deep forest out of sheer embarrassment. The elegant swans retreated into the lotus ponds because they just couldn't match her walk. Meanwhile, the parrots refused to leave, staying super close, just acting like humble students trying desperately to learn from her sweet voice. He's so infatuated that he even playfully complains to Kanagi's maids. He argues that jewelry is a burden, an unnecessary excess on flawless beauty. He's directly challenging the cultural norm of heavy ornamentation here. To him, putting heavy pearl necklaces on her is like trying to paint a ruby. It actually detracts from her inherent perfection. He totally dismisses the thick gold and heavy pearls as an insulting excess. He then just showers her with these rapid-fire titles of endearment. He calls her flawless gold and right-world pearl, signifying supreme rarity. Pure fragrance and sweet sugarcane and honey celebrate the sheer joy she brings to his senses. But pay attention to that last one, daughter of a noble merchant. That is the most important title for understanding their society. By proudly calling her that, he's deeply honoring her family's pristine reputation. Yes, he loves her beauty, but he equally reveres her character and her esteemed background. This brings us to Section 2, establishing an autonomous home. Eventually, the couple has to come down to earth and step into society. The text notes that Covalan's respected mother thoughtfully arranged a separate, dignified residence to empower the young couple with complete autonomy. And this is a fascinating glimpse into the social dynamics of the era. Rather than keeping them under constant control in a crowded joint family setting, the wise matriarch deliberately grants them independence. This crucial gift of autonomy is what forces them to step up, take on real responsibilities, and manage their own lives. All right, let's dive into an absolutely essential term, aram. Understanding this concept is the key to grasping how their romantic bliss transformed into profound societal purpose. Aram isn't just some simple rule book. It is the ancient Indian concept of righteousness, ethical duty, and moral domestic life. It dictates that you must live ethically, support your community, and perform your domestic duties with a pure heart. For our couple, Aram is the grand stage where their love is finally put to work for the greater good. The point here is that they didn't just hoard all that happiness for themselves. They opened their welcoming doors to the world. Surrounded by a loving circle of kin, they took on these righteous household duties. They warmly welcomed extended relatives. They hosted and fed righteous sages who relied entirely on the charity of noble households. They honored daily guests. Kannagi gracefully cultivated this noble, almost ascetic domestic life, proving that true wealth is really measured by generosity and duty. This brilliantly illustrates how that intense love built up on that moonlit terrace was now acting as the vital fuel for their noble, outward-facing duties. Their initial romantic obsession wasn't a distraction, right? It was the essential charging phase. The righteous and prosperous domestic life flourishes with joyous vitality, nurturing their mutual love into full bloom. Because they were so deeply fulfilled internally, they had the massive emotional capacity required to effortlessly serve their community and fulfill the demanding laws of Aram. And that leads us to our final thematic section, Section 3, Embracing Impermanence and Joy. As we wrap up the narrative arc, the text introduces a really poignant, philosophical twist. To capture the sheer intensity of their shared happiness, it gives us this bold metaphor. Their shared happiness mirrors the ecstatic union of serpents entwined in love. It's a primal, incredibly striking image. When serpents entwine, they form a tight knot that moves as a single entity. It represents a fierce, almost desperate kind of unity, showing us that their happiness wasn't passive. It was an incredibly gripping, total immersion in one another. But here is a shadow hanging over them. This profound bliss would endure for only a few fleeting years. What's truly fascinating is the underlying philosophy here. The couple was fully conscious of life's transient nature. They intuitively understood that all worldly situations, no matter how glorious, eventually come to an end. But, and this is key, they didn't let this awareness of impermanence paralyze them with anxiety or despair. It actually did the exact opposite. Instead, this shadow of impermanence sparked an urgent, vibrant passion. They embraced every single moment. Because they knew time was limited, they refused to waste a second. They lived with fierce intention, living as though determined to exhaust all joy before impermanence claimed its due. By doing this, they experienced an unbroken continuum of pure delight, successfully conquering the threat of time by living fully and deeply in the absolute present. So we end this explainer with a pretty haunting question for you to reflect on. The story of Kovalan and Kannagi isn't just some ancient artifact. It's a timeless blueprint. They show us that true fulfillment requires us to embrace romantic love, channel that love into purposeful service, and execute it all with burning urgency before our time runs out. So let this thought sit with you today. How does the awareness of life's impermanence change the way you love and live today?